Greetings, everybody. Today is January 8th, 2023. You're listening to BTWN News. My name is Tim. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Send your feedback to btwnnews at gmail.com, btwnnews8@gmail.com. Some of the information I'm going to share with you, I know because you emailed me. So thanks for doing that. Those of you who attend Grace Community Church and watch my content, you have been very helpful. So what did we find out this week? We found out via the announcements this morning at Grace Community Church that Pastor John is resting and taking a break. He is not going to be preaching today. He did not preach today. And we also learned that his latest sermon, his last sermon from January 1st, was posted on Grace to You, and I'm going to play a portion of that and give a little bit of commentary. And today, Reverend Michael Reeves is preaching, and I'll be sharing in this video who he is and some comments on his fabulous sermon today. And then I'm going to give you some comments at the end of this video about some of the people who disagree with Pastor John and their comments on my YouTube channel. So stick around for that. There you have it. Those of you who want me to get to the meat of the video right up front, there you have it in a minute and a half. Thank you for watching. Now, for those of you who want a little bit of commentary and a little more meat, here we go. Here's an update on Pastor John MacArthur. Here is at Grace to You. There will be a link in the description of this video. The latest video from Pastor John. If you remember, on January 1st, he preached the morning service, was not feeling well, and then he had somebody else preach the second service. And the second service is normally when they video and record it, and that's the version that they edit and put online. Unfortunately, he didn't get to the second service, so this is from the first service, and it's only audio. There is no video. So I'm gonna play a portion of that, so stay tuned for that. This is today's bulletin. Dr. Michael Reeves is preaching on Isaiah 8, verses 11, 12, and 13. Title of the message is Our Fears and the Fear of the Lord. You are going to want to listen to that. I'm going to give you a taste of it, and you're going to want to go and listen to that. I promise you. Who is Michael Reeves? You probably know. I didn't know. He preaches at the Puritan conferences, I do believe. And I got this information from a Google search. Dr. Michael Reeves is president and professor of theology at Union School of Theology in the United Kingdom. He is a featured teacher for the Ligonier Teaching Series, the English Reformation, and the Puritans. He is an author of many books, including, and there's a list of his books. So that is who took to the pulpit this morning. Now, it's interesting to think who is speaking at the pulpit when Pastor John is unable to, because we've been told by Pastor John, along with Austin Duncan, that Pastor John's replacement won't be named immediately. But when Pastor John is unable to preach, the pulpit will be filled with people who may or may not be candidates. They strongly suggested that his replacement will be an elder. They strongly said that, and they strongly alluded to that. And so the speaker this morning is not an elder, so for whatever that's worth. And last week, the speaker was an elder. So the idea for transition, as from Austin Duncan's podcast, the transition is that after Pastor John is unable to preach, the pulpit will be filled as it is when Pastor John takes his 8-week vacation. Year after year, Pastor John likes to take 8 weeks off, and he said he does that to help with the potential transition when it does happen. And we ought to look at who fills the pulpit if we want to get an idea of who may be named eventually one day the pastor of Grace Community Church, the lead pastor of Grace Community Church. So, very interesting. And here is today's sermon. Lord's Day morning service on Facebook. It didn't start until the Reverend was into his sermon, quite established. They must have had a problem. I'm sorry, I'm having a problem collecting my thoughts in this video if I'm stammering a little bit, but everything is well with me. They weren't able to get it to broadcast on Facebook. It was on the church's website streaming, but it wasn't online until this point. And I'm just going to play a couple minutes, and this is when they started, like I said, started airing it on Facebook, and I think you're going to appreciate this.
So love him for his holiness, and we tremble at the magnificence of his mercy. True fear of God is love for God defined. And so the biblical theme of the fear of God shows us the sort of love that is fitting for him. It shows God does not want passionless performance or a vague preference for him. He does not show a vague preference for his bride. To encounter the living Christ means we cannot contain ourselves. He is not a truth to be known unaffectedly. He's not a good to be received listlessly. Seen clearly, the dazzling beauty and splendor of God must cause our hearts to quake, to rejoice and tremble. To fear the Lord is to be more alive. It is for our love, joy, wonder, worship of God to be more acute, more affecting. For when we rejoice in God so intensely that we quake and tremble, then we're being most heavenly, like the angels who fall on their faces in wonder. And there is a particular challenge here for those of us who love study, who love theology. Because all too easy our biblical, our theological studies become exercises in puffing ourselves up and lording it over others with our knowledge. And so, friends who love theology and study, remember this: there is no true knowledge of him where there is no fear of him.
I got you now, don't I? Awesome topic, awesome delivery, and awesome accent. The three together are captivating for me, and you are going to want to watch the entire sermon when it's made available. There will be no link in the description of this video for you to watch this, because they show it online and then they take it down. I could be wrong. If I do find it on Grace Community Church's website, I'll put the link in the description of this video, and you can go and be blessed and challenged and encouraged from the sermon. You know, Pastor John is away resting, and just a wonderful, wonderful sermon. I've listened to about a half hour of it now, and I have just been blessed and challenged, like I said. But let me note this. I had a tremendous sermon this morning in my home church because my pastor knows me, and that's where I go and I worship. And that's the best sermon I've heard today was at my own church. And I hope you can say that about yourself as well. We don't want to worship Grace Community Church or Pastor John. We want to have our own healthy assemblies of believers that we attend in our local area. So let me challenge you, encourage you in that. Here's Pastor John's sermon from January 1st. And let me just say that it's edited. There is no any reference to John making reference to his health, as we heard in the comments section of previous videos here on this YouTube channel. There were people who chimed in and said, hey, I was there, and Pastor John said this about his health, and Pastor John said this about getting into scriptures because he maybe he could see that people were worried about him. That's all been edited out. And Grace Community Church, they edit all of Pastor John's sermons, and they chose to edit that out. So here is from the beginning. I will just play a couple of minutes of this so you can get a taste of it. Link to this video, link to this sermon will be in the description of this video.
And now, unleashing God's truth one verse at a time, here's Grace to You Bible teacher John MacArthur.
It always strikes me that this is such a strange time of year because all of our calendars and our normal functions in life get thrown into chaos. I want to make sense not out of the mundane, but out of the things that really matter. And I want to frame that, if I may, in this way. In the book of Esther, in chapter 1, you don't need to look at it, there is a very interesting statement about King Ahasuerus, a pagan king, the king of the Persian Empire, who ruled from about 486 BC to 465 BC. And it says concerning him that he surrounded himself with wise men. That's first chapter of Esther. And they are defined this way: who understood the times. That's really what wisdom should do. Even pagans understand that. Perhaps more applicable to us is the same basic comment with regard to the sons of Issachar. You will remember 1 Chronicles 11 and 12. David is gathering his army, tens of thousands of soldiers from all over Israel. And they're coming together. And it says of the sons of Issachar, that they had understanding of the times to know what Israel ought to do. 1 Chronicles 12:32. There were all kinds of men of war. They could keep their ranks. They could follow orders. They had a loyal heart to make David king over all Israel. But particularly useful to David were the sons of Issachar, who had understanding of the times to know what Israel ought to do. I think.
There you go. There's the beginning of the sermon. You're going to want to watch or listen to that. There's no video for that. You're going to want to listen to that. Just wanted to comment here at the end about how much I appreciate Pastor John. He's taught me so much. One of the things that he taught us is about the gifts of the Spirit. You know, the whole Strange Fire Conference, and helping us to understand the apostolic gifts and which ones were for the validation of new revelation during the early church, and they have discontinued, and a lot of people just hate. They're just frothing at the mouth, like ravenous wolves ready to devour Pastor John because he doesn't believe this. I was really appalled at some comments this past week on this YouTube channel where people were saying, too bad Pastor John is a cessationist and doesn't believe in the gifts of the Spirit, otherwise God would heal him. I took offense to that. I was so ticked off. I just commented and said, you're ridiculous. Are you going to tell me that someone, a preacher it's 83 years old, is going to live forever if they happen to believe the same position as you on the gifts of the Spirit? It's ridiculous. Stupid. You'd be surprised how many comments I have to delete that are just full of mockery because Pastor John does not believe that the apostolic gifts, as described in Matthew chapter 10, I believe that's the passage. I was reading it today. Matthew chapter 10, when Jesus sent out the apostles, he gave them these gifts, and amongst them were healing and the ability to raise the dead. And an individual with that specific gift, I believe, because of what I have learned from people, including from Pastor John, doesn't exist anymore. And because of the Greg Locke videos I've done recently, this channel is going to be focusing more on that debate, the gifts of the Spirit, because it's a hot topic and people need to be challenged on it. And what I challenge them with in the comment section, what I'm going to be challenging them with in videos in the future is, all right, if what you say is true and the apostolic gifts are still active today, we would expect to see them in every church, because there are portions of the scriptures that tell us that within every local assembly there are all the gifts. So if we're to believe that, there should be somebody in every church who has the spiritual gift of healing and raising the dead in every church. And I challenge them just to show me one person on the planet, not one in every church, just show me one in the entire planet that has the apostolic gift of healing and raising people from the dead. I like what Justin Peters said. If these gifts had continued today, it would be no debate. There would be no debate. So thank you, Pastor John, for helping me to understand and others to understanding why it is and how it is that God has used the specific gifts. We still believe, Pastor John still believes in divine healing. He does not believe in divine healers. And even those who believe in divine healers do not live forever. Ridiculous. Oh, man. Some people just let their dislike just cloud their logic, their ability to think straight. If you watch the whole video, let me know, because that means you're a BTWN News true follower. 19 minutes. Appreciate you guys. Since you're here, I'll encourage you to consider supporting BTWN News. Link to do so in the description of this video. Till next video, my prayer is that God would bless each and every one of you, and those of you involved that know stuff that Grace Community Church, or you want to give me some feedback or some information in regards to something I could report here, you can send that information to btwnnews@gmail.com, btwnnews@gmail.com. And thank you for the handful of you who did that this past week. Thank you. God's blessings to all of you. Take care and see ya.